Parliament's Constitution and Legal Affairs Committee has completed work on the Right to Information Bill for consideration by the entire House. The committee has finished its work or its report on the bill after extensive consultations, recommending that the House approves it. The committee's report will be laid on the floor of Parliament today. The Speaker referred the bill to the committee back in March. Member of the RTI Coalition and Director for Advocacy and Policy Engagement with CDD Ghana, Dr. Kojo Asante, joins me in studio. And we want to have a conversation on the back of that. Good morning to you. Thank you for being here. Yeah, but this particular point where we are with the bill, we've been here before. We've even gone past
Unfortunately, yeah, we have been here before. I think, I mean, we don't take it lightly because we know where we've been before. So we've been very close to this process. We were part of the stakeholder conference. We submitted memos. We even joined the committee at their clause-by-clause review in Koforidua. And when they returned, we submitted an addendum to our memo, you know, a supplementary document. So we've been keeping a very close eye on the process because we want to make sure that not only does it pass as it's been promised, but it passes as a credible right to information law. Otherwise, the whole process is useless.
But how would you say this particular session of Parliament has handled the bill?
They've been very quick. I think it's the same process that this committee in particular tends to be very good and efficient in the way they process laws. So the OSP was dealt with like that, and the right information is taking the same format. It's been broad consultation, and they've been quite fast to get this. We thought that, you know, they would finish the report early, but, you know, you want to give them as much time to debate and discuss and so on. Now that it will be before the plenary, there's even more work to do to make sure that some of the things that we've raised that maybe the committee still feels they can't change or propose for amendment can still be done on the floor of the House.
Okay, so the exemptions, yes, that's one of the things that you've raised, but we've heard the response from the chairman of the committee. Are you still hopeful? Can anything be done now that the entire House is looking at it?
So I haven't seen the report of the committee, and I'm hopeful that some of the recommendations we made around the exemptions can be still dealt with. There's a particular provision which seeks to basically exempt all kinds of deliberations that in any public service. It's almost like, you know, you give with one hand and you take with the other. So that clause just appears somewhere. It's very odd.
What would it mean in real life?
It means that every information from a public institution is basically exempt.
Then what's the point?
Exactly. You know, so because the whole idea of the exemptions is that it has to be, as the principle goes, it has to be very narrow. It has to be limited because it's a right to information. But you have clear exceptions where you say because of national security, because of public morals, public health, privacy issues, we have to exempt certain type of information. And even that, if the benefits outweigh the harm that a disclosure will cause, then you can still disclose exempt information. So it's very, very limited. It has to be very specific. So they go through all of that. The exemptions is a long, about clause 5 to 17 is all full of exemptions. But they then focus on particular types of institutions, the presidency, cabinet, law enforcement, security defense, international affairs, all of those things. We were saying, rather than focus on the institutions, focus on the issue. What it is that you want to exempt. So that was a principle and approach that they rejected because of the way they have structured it. But regardless of that, we still think there are provisions in there that should not be there.
But these are the key institutions that we would go. For instance, take defense, this US-Ghana deal. Everybody wanted to know more. And if we have a clause in there that says you can't go to them for information, then what are we doing?
So I think there is, I mean, and across the world, I think everybody agrees that, okay, yes, there are certain information that you have to exempt, you know, because of public interest, all right? So like the U.S. the U.S. agreement, cooperation agreement, for instance, you will normally exempt that kind of information. But somebody can say that that harm that you are trying to avoid, it's outweighed by the benefits that it would, right, inure to the public interest. And therefore, even though you said it's exempt, you should still disclose it.
Okay.
And I think that's exactly what happened in the U.S. with all of the confusion and annoyance, people going on demonstration. Even the government started disclosing that kind of information, so to bring clarity to it. I give another example. Buhari's health, and we've had the same thing with the health of presidents and so on. You will keep it, but if it is almost generating rumors that there's going to be instability in government because we don't know whether the president is ill, he would, is the serious or not, you would end up disclosing it. So even the fact that it's exempt does not mean that the door is closed. And that is very clearly established in this law, which is called the harms test, that no matter the exemptions that are provided, but as I'm saying, your exemptions have to be very limited. If you give a long list of exemptions, it is not a good RTI law. But I think we've come a long way. We were happy with what we got, but we've still made proposals for some exemptions to be removed because it doesn't fit the narrow, specific type of approach.
But as it is, you cannot tell if that has been incorporated.
Oh, yes. So for me, I'm waiting to see the report. And if it's not, you'll be seeing a statement from us regarding the things that we still feel are outstanding and that have to be dealt with. For me, that particular clause, if it's there, it completely defeats the bill.
So when are you hoping you get the opportunity to see it?
Oh, I think I would have gotten it in my email by now. It's now that I have to go and study. But in the next, we're going to study, look at what we have sent in terms of our addendum, and then basically start, because we have to also lobby people on the floor of Parliament that this is important and we need to address it.
Okay. So if these exemptions, as they have it, or as it is, as it appears, if nothing is done to it, we're taking the worst scenario. Are we still better off with a bill like that?
If that is, then it makes the process for accessing information difficult, because now we have to go beyond the exemption to apply the harms test. And rather than having proactive and maximum disclosure, so that if it's not exempt information, basically by this law, it should be public.
Okay. Just before we wrap up, if this passes into law, how would ordinary citizens be able to access information on the back of the law?
So there's one of the things I really like about this law is the records keeping mandate that it has. So because you have to enforce the right, it's obligating public institutions to actually organize and keep records. So that if you are in a district assembly and you want information, you go there and say, oh, now we are going to go and look for it. And so there's a period where we need to ensure that all of the institutions are compliant with the records, management component of this. Now with technology and so on, we should be able to scale over all of these things. Now you have voice and all kinds. On your mobile phone, you should be able to get. I say that for me, this law is really a citizen's law. Whether it is that you are getting social protection benefits or whatever, it's not even the accountability, media, but, Kumaka happens and you are looking for just basic information on what should you do as a citizen to protect yourself. Ebola outbreak. That kind of information should not be now you are calling somebody somewhere to tell you what that is. So for me, it is a basic human rights law. And if we look at it, those MPs who see themselves as citizens first, because they are not going to be MPs forever. They are also going to need this law in order for them to also live in this society. So that's what we are hoping that they will put that.
But what it means is that we're not coming to build like a database of information.
No, I think there's already enough. I mean, there are some ministries that are better equipped. If you take Ministry of Finance, they are better equipped. A lot of the parastatals that are doing very sort of high profile and the values of things that they are dealing. So I think it's not the same everywhere. Some are really poor. I'm sure if you go to Employment Ministry or whatever, social welfare.
Because we really can't even tell how many people are unemployed.
Exactly. That's
we
my
don't
point.
know the graduate
And
unemployment.
that's my point. And this for me is the opportunity, because it helps us to make it, because there are offenses under the law as well if you do not perform.
Oh, under this particular
law, if you do not perform an obligation that is imposed on you in the law. So
is it institutionalized, or this is directed at specific persons?
So it will be the institution and then the officer. So there's an information officer that has to be designated, and then even when you have to do reviews, if you go and you are refused, you go to if the chief director has to deal with the review, then there's an information commission outside of the public service that can now come and resolve if the institution says, I won't give you the information. But you also have your rights under the law. You can go to the High Court, like the Bars branding
That's
case.
your first point.
No, that's your last. I mean, I would say it's your last point because it's more expensive. All right. We have made the case that we shouldn't be charging for processing a request. If we want to charge, maybe you get a transcription or a photocopy, then, but not that you went to apply for information, because the information officer is already being paid by our taxpayers' money, so they don't need to be paid again for.
Okay. So is this law requiring us to establish a commission or an authority or something?
So there's an
like
information commission.
Okay.
I think it's a 3-member or some, I think 3 or 5-member commission, which basically is supposed to be the arbiter between public institutions and the citizen who is exercising their rights.
How soon can I get information that I request for?
So initially they had said 14 days, and I think so 14 days to determine whether they'll give it to you, and then 14 days to actually give it to you. We have proposed that that is too long, and I think the committee has come to that same understanding. I think it's been reduced to 7 days, and really, if they determine that they should give it to you within that 7 days, you should be able to get it.
Okay.
So I mean, those are the things that I think we want to see if the committee has, made amendments and proposed amendments to that effect.
So real quick, is there a specialized court as well?
No, there's no specialized court, because currently under the Constitution, you can go to any high court to enforce your rights. And the Chief Justice has designated the human rights courts for that. So even, as I said, the Bars branding case, it's a right under the Constitution. You can go and enforce that right.
Okay, all right. We'll have to leave it here. We'll be following up with how the conversations pan out in Parliament. That's Director for Advocacy and Policy Engagement with CDD Ghana, but he's also a member of the RTI Coalition. You're watching News Desk. Stay with us. We have more coming up.